Hello everybody, my name is Edgar and I'm the Urban Ag Outreach Manager here at City Sprouts. And today we're going to show you a couple of things on how to start your seed. And what I mean by that is we're going to show you a couple of examples, a couple of different methods, and also using several different materials. The soil that we're going to be using today is specifically for starting seed. What I mean by that is there's a difference between starter mix as opposed to potting soil. That soil is a little bit more dense. Starter soil is going to be a little bit fluffier. That's going to allow good gas exchange, specifically for the oxygen that's required for the germination process. Now we've already got this soil pre-moistened a little bit. And what I mean by that is that we're going to be able to compress it with your hand, and it's going to hold its shape fairly well. There's no water dripping out of it if I do a quick grip, maybe 1 or 2 drops of water. That's really all you need. So the first thing I'm going to show you here is how to start with one of the most inexpensive probably pieces of material here. Is going to be just an egg carton. The reason this is kind of handy to use is you'll notice that it's already got individual cells, which is exactly what we're looking for in something that's a little bit more high-tech. So once you have your soil already pre-moistened, all you have to do is just got to fill each individual cell with some soil. This is a pretty straightforward process. Once every cell is full of soil, all you have to do is just give it a nice little tap, and you're good to go. Now, the seed that we're working with here, this is some spinach seed. Spinach, you can start directly into each individual cell. They're pretty good at transferring. You don't have to worry about too much of it. And all you got to do is take one seed, put it in each individual cell. Now, you don't have to worry so much about putting the seed at a certain depth. Again, you're putting seeds in a flat here. You're not putting them out in the ground or in the soil. And you're going to put one seed per cell. You're going to continue doing this process until the entire flat is full of seeds. Once you have a seed in each individual cell, all you have to do now is protect the seed. So you're going to take a little bit more extra soil. You're going to cover each cell. And you're just going to give it a slight little tap. And what I mean by that is just give it a nice little firm tap. You do not want to press down too hard on this because, again, if you press down on this too hard, you're going to compress the soil around the seed. Some people would say that that's a good thing, but in reality, as I mentioned before, this has got to be a fluffy mixture. It's got to be able to allow aeration so the seed can properly germinate because it does require oxygen. If you press it too much, it won't have a lot of space for that. Once you have this full of the seed, you got it covered. The last step is to just simply go ahead and get some water, cover everything. Make sure that everything is properly watered here. That way you can go ahead and set this flat somewhere where it's a little away from the direct sun. It's got to be a little bit warm as well. And then what I would also recommend is before leaving this behind, always take a look at your seed packets. Your seed packets will give you specific instructions as to how much moisture and how much humidity is going to require. Plus, at the same time, is what specific temperature these seeds are going to germinate at. Each seed germinates at a different temperature. All right, the next example that I'm going to show you here, this one is going to be a little bit more sophisticated and just a little bit more expensive, because you're going to be buying some flats that are already got some cells pre-made, and these are going to be pre-fitted for individual pots. But the process is virtually the same. You're going to grab each individual pot, you're going to fill it with soil. Now you could do this individually per pot, or just like we did with the egg carton, if it could fit it into the larger container of your soil, you could just dump it all at once, get everything filled all at once as well. Once you have all of these pots full of soil, you're going to go ahead and grab your seed and you're going to start to put them down. The next example that I'm going to show you here are some cucumber seed. As you can tell, these seeds are a little bit larger, so they're a lot easier to grab with your hand. If the seed is too small, you could also use some tweezers if you wish. But once again, you're going to grab one seed and you're going to put it in each individual pot. And again, if you're really concerned about how deep I should put those seeds into those pods, I would probably recommend no more deeper than your first knuckle. That's pretty good average. Once your seeds are full here, you're going to go ahead and fill out the entire rest of the tray. Once your entire tray is full of seed, then the final step is, once again, just to go ahead and give everything a good watering. You want to make sure that they're nice and wet. They don't have to be drenched. But once you have them nice and wet, simply put those seeds away in a spot where it's going to be a little warm, away from direct sunlight. That'll give them a good starting temperature with good moisture. And again, if you're always curious as to what temperature these seeds are going to germinate at, always take a look at your seed packet. They'll have all that information for you ready to go. All right, the next example that I wanted to give you here is going to be a little bit more for larger scale production. This is something that most people are not necessarily going to use in their home gardens, but you can certainly do so. But the benefit of these is that it's going to give you more quantity. Easiest way to fill this up is just put it into your container and then just fill everything with soil. Just dump it all in. Okay, once you fill it with soil, give it just a good 1-2 tap. That should be enough to compress the soil enough. Again, you don't want to compress it too hard. And then the last step is just to take your seeds and fill it in. In this particular case, we're working with Swiss chard. The seeds are a little bit larger and a little bit more textured, so we don't really need any tweezers. You can easily do this with your hand. Just fill it in one at a time. You're going to continue doing this process until the entire flat is full of seed. Once you're done with that, the next step is to then go ahead and refill it. You want to cover each individual cell with some soil. Again, this is to protect the seed, but also to help it germinate. It's going to cover it, it's going to keep it moist, and it will keep it nice and warm. And there you go. Again, once this is complete, just give it a nice watering. Put the seeds away somewhere where they're nice and warm. There's not too much direct sunlight. And again, give it a few days. You should have good seeds germinated for you. All right, the last example that I want to give you today was going to be using the soil blocker. This is something that most people won't necessarily use, but the reason I wanted to show this to you is that it's not only this is a versatile tool, but it's also, it helps you avoid having to use plastic. You don't have to use a seed flat. You don't have to use these individual containers. You're actually making the container out of soil, hence the name soil blocker. This is really going to pay for itself after one season. I can guarantee it. So let me show you how to work this. All you do is you have your soil that's going to be nice and moist. Now this is still a little bit not as moist as we want it to be. This is perfect for starting those flats. But for making soil blocks, we're going to use a little bit more water. Earlier I showed you that the soil was able to maintain its shape when you squeeze it with your hand, and not a lot of water came out of it. When you're using this device, you want the soil to be slightly more wet, not drenched, to the point where you're going to be able to not only make a shape out of it, but more water will come out as you squeeze. As you can tell here, that's about the nice consistency that we're looking to get. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill each individual cell with some soil. Essentially, this is just a mold that's going to allow us to make nice blocks of soil. Okay? Once the soil is full in each individual pocket, this one, you do want to make sure that it's nice and full and a little bit more compressed. Okay? And the way this works, you simply put it on a flat surface. This is the handle that's going to push the block out. So you're going to put your hand on top. Your fingers are going to hold this lever or this handle. You're going to press down fairly hard. And as you're pressing down, your fingers are going to do the action. You're going to pop this up. You're going to let go. And then do it one more time. And you're going to end up with nice little individual blocks made out of soil. The huge benefit of this device is that now, this is where you're going to be essentially transplanting into the soil instead of having to work with additional materials where you have to take them out, throw them out. So this is really going to be a little bit more sustainable for anybody who's looking to go that route. And again, it's going to save you the extra cost of extra materials. Now the way we seed these are exactly the same. You could use any one of the seeds that we've already worked with before. So in this particular case, we'll just simply go back to the cucumbers. And again, one seed per soil block. Make sure that these get covered with soil once again. Every single block has to be covered with soil so you can protect the seed, but it's also going to allow that seed to be in place and allow it to germinate. Once you're done and you put them on your seed flat, you want to go ahead and you don't really have to worry so much about watering these too heavily because again, this is already fairly wet, but you do want to give them a little bit of water so that way these individual cells kind of get a nice flat coating on top. And again, put them away somewhere where it's going to be nice and warm. Follow the instructions on your seed packet to maintain the proper temperature and the proper moisture levels. And again, give it a few days. You should be able to have nice germinated seeds. And once you're done with that, you can then transplant them directly into your garden. It's also very important. Once you're done seeding your seeds, always label your seeds. I can't tell you how many times, even myself and other colleagues, have realized that we have flats full of seeds and we forgot to label them. So we have no idea what's growing in them until we germinate the seed, we give them enough time to grow, and then we can kind of tell by the size of the leaf and the shape of what that is. Label them by the name of the seed you planted, the date that you planted these seeds down. That way it'll give you a good reference as to how long those seeds have to germinate, and that way you know whether or not the germination was successful.